Hi, how are you doing today? We're doing a video that I started doing last year and I really like, so I decided to bring it back this year. Let's talk about all the series I finished in 2023. So all the book series I finished in 2023. Finishing my series is always in the back of my mind, but in 2023 I really made that an effort, and I thought I'd use this video to just wrap up every series that I finished to make it worthwhile, you know? I just thought that doing a video like this would be a good idea, considering there are several series I for some reason or another didn't do a video on. So yeah, let's just get into things with the first series that I finished in 2023, which is the Trials of Apollo by Riordan. I do have to say that when it comes to most of the series I read in 2022, only the last book I read in 2023, but I really enjoyed the series. I really like Apollo as a character. I thought it was really fun to follow through the series, and his character development was also absolutely incredible. Also at the center of the series is his friendship with a demigod named Meg, and I really loved that friendship and how that was developed throughout the series. And I also just really liked the story. I thought it was really captivating, and I think it did a great job going from book to book and just expanding on it in a way that makes sense. Then the next series I finished is the Folk of the Air series by Holly Black. I also started this in 2023. I just basically binged all three of these books in almost one go. I read The Cool Prince and was obsessed with it, so I immediately continued onwards. And if you've watched all of my end of the year content, you know that The Wicked King was one of my favorite books this year, which is book 2 in the series. I just really adored it. I love our main character, Jude. I thought she was such a great main character to follow. She was really badass, really smart especially, and I just really loved seeing her kind of outsmart everyone in a way that's very realistic. The series, it's YA fantasy and it's very heavy on the political intrigue, and that's something I genuinely really enjoyed. I thought it was really well done, really well crafted, and I really liked how you kind of needed to be like 5 steps ahead of everyone because that's just the way this world works. There was a slow burn romance in the series as well. I feel like the series mostly gets hyped up for that, but it's not the main focus of the series, but I do think it's good to have it hyped up for that because it is generally fantastic. It's enemies to lovers. It's very slow burn. It's really good. It's really angsty, and I ate it up. And next we have the It Ends With Us duology by Colleen Hoover, and I don't even want to talk about this. I really loved the first book, but not because I think it's like a high quality book, but because it did really well what it was supposed to do, I think, which is make me sob. Do I think the first book needs a sequel? No. Do I think that the sequel we got was necessary? Absolutely not. You know, sometimes the sequel comes out to a book that you don't think needs a sequel, and then you read the sequel and you're like, oh, I'm really glad that I read this. That wasn't the case with this one. I generally think It Starts With Us was a downgrade. I don't think it was as good. As much as I really love Atlas and I enjoyed that he was a bigger part of this book, I thought this was generally pointless, and it was very obvious that Colleen Hoover also did not know what to write this book about because she pulled some strings out of thin air that doesn't make sense to make up a plot with it. And then next up we're back to Rick Riordan with the King Chronicles. This is probably my least favorite Rick Riordan series that I've read. I don't know, I wasn't sold on it. I think I really enjoyed the first book, which is probably the biggest shame I have with this, is that I really enjoyed the first book and then I really did not like book 2 and 3. I didn't hate them, but they just weren't my cup of tea. I thought the characters became insufferable, kind of like shell of themselves. The plot got very boring, and as much as I like the mythology and I like how Rick Riordan kind of manages to weave magic systems out of mythologies, it's definitely the strongest part of this book, I think, is the world. But like the plot got a bit boring, and like I said, I didn't really like the characters, and the romances in here are nothing. Like, I wish Rick Riordan would have like just not included any romances in here, because like the ones that were just weren't good. The next we have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which again is a duology, and the first book I really enjoyed, but I wasn't in love with it, and then I read the second book this year to finish it up, and I fucking love that book. Again, made it on my favorite of the year list. I just think this world is really well crafted. I already thought that in the first book. It's historical fantasy YA. I feel like I haven't specifying the genres all these, but like it's historical fantasy, it's YA. I feel like Chloe Gong did a great job at kind of like using real history and like mixing out like magic and like these gangs going on and everything. I thought that was really interesting. I genuinely really had a fun time reading it, I thought the characters were really interesting. I really liked the romance. I do think in book 1 it is a bit underdeveloped, but like in the second book it hits you with all the whammies. I love the cast of side characters. Like I said, the world is really interesting, the plot is very captivating, and yeah, I really love it, and I need to read more by Chloe Gong. Then next we have Magnus and the Gods of Asgard by Riordan. Yes, another Riordan series. This one is really fun. I really enjoyed this one. This honestly almost made my favorite list of the year, the last book in the series, but it just barely didn't. I really enjoyed this. Again, it is one where I love the cast of characters, especially because it has a very found family feel, and it's so nice. It feels like a comforting hug. These group of characters, they're so fun and they're great, and I love how they all fit together, because if you seem like they shouldn't, but they do, and it's great. Again, a really creative world. Again, I think this was a really great plot. I really enjoyed my time reading it. Like, these generally felt like so much fun, and I had a blast with them, and yeah. And the next series I finished is the Twisted series by Ana Huang. This is a series of adult contemporaries companion novels. Each book follows a different romance, but all the girls are like in the same friend group, so that's the connection between them. And I have like mixed opinions on the book, so I definitely recommend like checking out my series discussion for this one, because I feel like with series like this, of course, like the opinion on each book changes as it depends on each romance, but I did have a lot of fun reading the series. I have to say that Ana Huang's male characters can tend to lean a bit alpha male-y, so if that's not your thing, these books aren't for you. Like, it's not my thing, but I generally didn't mind too much in these books, except the first one. And it's a very fun group of characters, and honestly by the end of this book, the thing I cared most about was our female friend group at the center of this. And then also, of course, as they each get a love interest, they also become a friend group, and they become a part of, like, it becomes one big friend group. And that's like, honestly, I'm a bit part of the series, as much as I love the different romances in here as well. Moving on to The Last Hours by Cassandra Clare. This is a Shadowhunter series and I finally finished it, and I want to say I really enjoyed it, but that last book really put a damper on things, because I really did not like the final book in the series. I think I really enjoyed book 1. I really loved that because I love this cast of characters. I do still stand by that. They again have a great found family dynamic that I really enjoyed. I mean, most of them are family, but like, it's technically a family dynamic. The romance in this is surprisingly captivating. It is a love triangle, which is stupid, but it's the main romance, let's say, is very interesting, and the plot is also like a bit different than we've gotten from the Shadowhunter world, but really fun and very captivating. But then the final book just threw a whack into things. That was a terrible book, like, no offense, but slightly offense. Then next we have the Divine Mess duology by Tessa Bailey. I adored the first book in the series, which is Secretly Yours. I read that early to Galley last year in 2022. It was one of my favorites of the year. Like, I know not everyone loves it, but I do. Like, it's my genre of book. It's really fun. It's kind of Grumpy Sunshine. It's a blast. It's such a fun romance. I loved it. And then the second one I was really excited for, but I didn't like it as much. I didn't buy the connection between those two characters for some reason. Yeah, didn't work for me. But like, for the rest, I still have fun reading it. And then next we have Sheets by Brenna Thummler. This is a trilogy of graphic novels. It's so cute. Oh my god, if there's one series from this entire video that I feel like you need to check out if you haven't yet, it's this one. It's not necessarily like my favorite of the list, but I do feel like this one has the most mass appeal. It's middle grade, I believe, and it's adorable, and it's just so precious. And it also deals with a lot of like a bit more hard-hitting topics, but of course like to a level that like a middle grade audience would understand and be comfortable with. Like, it doesn't really go like super in depth, but it is still done, and I think it's so wonderfully done. And next we have the Iron Fey Evenfall series by Julie Kagawa. This is probably the status on the list for me, because this means the end of the Iron Fey world, at least currently. I don't think there are other plans to continue on in the world, and you know, it's been up and down. It really has been, but it still felt painful that it was done. This series I really enjoyed. This series I also figured out that this world, how much I like it, like the books wise, depends very much on the character we're following, because each book in the series follows a different character. We follow a different POV, and that definitely affected my enjoyment of the series. But I did really like it. I thought it was a very interesting plot. I think Julie Kagawa does a great job each series, like extending this world in a way that totally makes sense, as always why we haven't heard about this before. And just comes up with such interesting concepts, and that was also the case with this series, and I really enjoyed it, and I love these characters so much. That's also something we go back to the characters from the beginning who I thought I didn't like in the beginning, but like now having grown so much with them, I'm like, I love them. And next I finished the Monster series by Naoki Urasawa. This is a manga series and it's really popular. And honestly, I did enjoy it, but I'm not in love with it as most people seem to be. I do feel like throughout the series there are a couple of like dull points, and most people who I've seen talk about the series just talk about like it's a masterpiece and there was nothing wrong with it, and I'm like, there were definitely like dull points. I feel like the ending was very abrupt and I wanted a bit more from it. Felt a bit anticlimactic. Then next we have the Spanish Love Deception duology by Elena Armas. Both of these books were 3 stars for me. They were kind of fine romances. I do like the American Roommate Experiment a bit more than the Spanish Love Deception, but overall they're fine reads. I wasn't in love with them, but I had a fun time while reading them. Then next we have the Bevelstokes series by Julia Quinn, which is a trilogy of adult historical romances, and this again is one that was very all over the place for me because I hated the first book so much. I kind of felt meh on the second one, and the third I really enjoyed, but overall I like the Bevelstokes family. I think that was my favorite part of the series. I think it's a shame that the third Bevelstokes sibling didn't get a book, and instead we focus on other characters, even though as much as I love those characters and I'm so glad we got a book for them. I feel like it's a shame that I'm missing a Bevelstokes sibling in a Bevelstokes series. Next up we have the Mead Mishaps series by Kimberly Lemming. This is probably the most fun I've had while reading this entire year, reading this series. This is another one that I kind of like binged. They are very fun fantasy romances. It's adult, it's very steamy, I guess what you're into, but it's not smart without plot, don't worry. But I thought it was really fun, really funny. I really liked the romances. Only the last one I wasn't completely sold on, but the rest I really liked, despite them all being incel because they are created mates romances, which I typically am not a big fan of. But I actually thought it was really well done within the series because there was more to the romances than them just being like, oh, I love you because you're my mate. More to it that I really enjoyed. They have a very interesting fantasy world that, despite these books being relatively short, I feel like they were built out enough. Like, they aren't the most intricate fantasy worlds because this also takes more of like a cozy fantasy approach than like a high fantasy approach, even though technically it's high fantasy, and I really like that. Then we've arrived at our last series for 2023, and that's Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is again one I binged because I had to. This is also probably my favorite series of the year. Like, technically all of these books were 4-star, but like I just was obsessed with this entire series. Like, it's a 5-star series for me. Like, I love it so much. It's kind of shameful. Evangeline, our main character, can be a bit stupid, but I just still think she's a very engaging, interesting character. I really loved the world. I thought it was so fantastical and fairy tale like. I really loved it. I liked the writing. There were very many twists and turns I did not see coming, and I was generally like, you know, the second book I read that sick on the couch on Christmas Day. I was very glad I was home alone because there was a lot of audible reactions, especially from that second half, because I was just so obsessed with it and I was just so invested in it. And Jax is one of my new favorite characters of all time. That's also something you gotta know. That is everything I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. I kind of flew through things, I'm sorry, but there wasn't too much to say about some of these series. Also, the graphics I popped up for every series are from my reading journal. That's how I kept track of the series I finished this year, so I thought that would also be fun, so you can have like a breakdown of each book rating and like also some overall thoughts, ranking, all of that stuff. So it's present. And yeah, like I said, series discussions for any of these videos that I have, for any of these series that I have, will be in the description. Mead Mishaps and Once Upon a Broken Heart are coming. And yeah, that's it for me today. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this series, if you've read them as well as some of the series you finished in 2023, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? I should have played it cool.